Let's discuss the termination and the termination messages from the transactions page. These are a good indication of what's going on with the transactions at your site. If you have any zero quantity transactions, then the termination message is going to be an important factor in troubleshooting what's going on. So let's look at how we can see the termination messages and what we can do with that information. So if you navigate over to your transaction records, so just under transactions, will take you to your transactions page, and you will see here termination message. So this is the message that gets synced with the transaction to DXFlame. So each transaction is going to have a termination code on why the transaction was ended. You'll see these, some of these here say normal. So transaction code normal just means that the transaction completed successfully. There were no errors or anything. And you'll see several other messages as you go through here. Some of these are going to be very obvious as to what happened. So in this case, we reached a quantity limit. So if this card had a restriction, then it hit a certain limit. But you'll also see some that you may not understand. So it's important to understand that the termination message is something that's generated fuel site controller and not by DXFleet itself. So you'll need to reference the fuel site controller's operations to understand those codes a little bit better. To do that, we can go to our technical manuals for the FSC 3000. In this case, we're looking at an FSC 3000 site. So when we go to technical manuals, there is a FSC configuration guide that you can download. That guide has all the termination codes. And if we navigate to that, we can search for the transaction. I just searched termination. And if we go here to the termination denials, then we will navigate right to that menu of the guide. So there's going to be a few different termination codes, but you'll notice that some of them are going to be lowercase and some of them are going to be uppercase. So here we have uppercase and here we lowercase. The lowercase termination codes are going to be transactions where no fuel was dispensed. So these denials happen early in the card process and authorization was never granted on those transactions. Whereas the uppercase, these were authorized and then they terminated through that initial authorization. So let's look at a few of these. And then you can reference this guide in the future to discover what is happening for your particular transaction. But here we have, code B, 3 bad pens. So this is somebody that has a valid card, but they could not enter that card correctly because they didn't have the PIN number that was associated to that card. So they couldn't get past this step. So in this case, it'll capture the card that was being used, and then it will show the termination code, and then that will sync up to DXFleet. And you would see something like that under the zero quantity transactions filter. So when you go here, you see anything like that, and you would see a termination message of something similar on a transaction like that. You'll notice here that there's a description on the termination message and not necessarily a code. If you hit the edit icon on the transaction that you have problems with, and you scroll to the top here, you'll see termination code. So in this one, this is a capital D. So then if we were referencing D, we would come down to the FSC guide and we would look at D here, pump reset quantity exceeded. So this one, it recommends some possible solutions for this and then a root cause. So in this case, this is just a transaction, so no big deal. But if you're having issues with the quantity reset, then you'll want to do these solutions here. So this is just actually looking for hardware correction, verifying the pump controller set up for the correct sensing method, verify wiring. This is basically just saying it's not getting the pulses that it should be getting. And so it received the pulses without the controller without sensing the pump is on. So it saw some pulses. This is just a test site, so I wasn't necessarily worried about that. But in this case, this is what it's recommending for those possible solutions. So you'll see a root cause and you'll see the possible solutions for it here. And this is an easy way to reference what's going on. So let's look at some of these lowercase ones again. And then here, like card not in positive card file, card not in card file. This is just saying, hey, this card was not on your fuel side controller, so it could not authorize the transaction. And on the display of this, you would see a not a network card. This would be a not a network card error. So if you're getting not a network card errors, when you look at those transactions, you'll see a lowercase f. This is indicating that your card is not on file and it's not going to be authorizing the transaction because that card is missing. You'll navigate through here. You'll see card expired. You'll see invalid card. So if a card's invalidated in DX Fleet, it won't be able to fuel, and you'll see a lowercase I on that transaction. And if we scroll through some of these others, like an account mismatch, if they're using the wrong accounts or if an account's expired. And if we go back to the uppercase, you'll see things like no fueling pulses. So this is just saying, hey, we didn't see the pulse that we should be seeing, and we need to verify that the hardware actually is working on site. Quantity limit again, we've got pulsar errors. These are things like we're turning on the pump, but the pump's not coming on for whatever reason. So are we getting, no pump panel busy? Are we getting no fueling pulses? Are we getting an issue with the quantity that's being dispensed? Those kind of things are going to pop up after the authorizations are granted, and that's why those have a uppercase value. So I just wanted to point out that this is a reference that you can use. We'll download it. We'll add it to this guide so that you can easily access it. And this is going to be a little bit different for the Synergy controller. So just keep that in mind. The codes would probably be fairly similar, but you'll have a different guide to reference for those codes. And this is where you can go to look up a possible cause and a possible solution for each one of your termination.